The next thing that I need to do is actually click this next button. This is going to allow me to set up my rate template and load my rate pricing. So this is a new pop-up screen that appears, different from the one that we just saw when we were creating the rate plan. This is a tool that allows me to edit the rate pricing and features of this one specific rate. So that's listed at the top here. It says daily rate. Now this screen, we're looking at the General tab, and the General tab is actually divided into two screens. We have this upper portion here with some checkboxes and a rate grid. And then in the lower portion, I have a rate calendar that will display what the rates are currently set up as. And you'll notice here that the first time you create a rate, it's always going to display in red because we have yet to set up any rates. There's no rate set up. Now, just like the other modules in Roomkey, you can choose to expand this to full screen if you prefer that view. We also have a little trick here in the center here. You can hover over the dividing line. When you get that double-headed arrow, you can click and drag that up or down. Let me just drag that all the way down. And that allows you to work in one half of the screen at a time. So we're going to start with the top half of the screen here, which is the rate grid, and we're going to set up the rate template. Here we can see my room types listed on the left-hand side. You'll notice that the PH room types do not show up because I am not, if you'll recall, I did remove the PH room types from all those distribution channels. So those room types do not show up on this screen if they are not part of the distribution channel. So my room types are listed here with the SQQ at the top. That's my lowest price or most economically priced room type, to my highest priced room type, the EKS or Executive King Suite. Then the grid is set up with a series of columns listed single, double, triple, quad. Those represent occupancy levels. So single occupancy, one person in the room, two people, three, four. And then we also have columns for extra and child occupants. So if you have any extra people over and above 4 people in a room, if you want to charge a nominal fee for the 5th person, 6th person, etc., we can actually set that up in the extra column. And if your property does charge for child occupancy, we can also add a fee increment value for child occupancy as well. Now, this property does not charge for child occupancy, so I'm going to leave this child column blank for the purposes of demonstration. Now, below the titles for each of these columns is a base rate row. This allows me to quickly enter in a base rate price. If your property has pricing that remains consistent for all room types, meaning that prices are the same regardless of what room type the guest has booked, you can actually use the base rate row to quickly load in your prices. So here, if my base rate price is $100, I can see that price for single occupancy automatically flow down to all of my room types. So regardless of which room type is booked, if it's one person in the room, it's going to be $100. So you can do that if that is the pricing model for your property. However, many of our properties, or the majority of properties, do change pricing depending on the room type that is booked. So an SQQ room might be at $100, but the SK room type is $10 more. So a total of $110 for the higher room type. So if you'd like to set up that type of structure where you charge incremental increases for each room type or higher room types, we can actually build that into the grid itself. And that is the process of setting up the rate template or rate grid. Now, if you click in this space here where it says $0, by default, this space is locked. So I can type on my keyboard and that might be coming across on my microphone there, but you'll notice that nothing is updating on screen until I remove the check mark from lock the grid in the lower right-hand corner here. So I'm going to remove that check mark. And now I can actually type in my incremental increase for the SK room type, which is $10. So when you're setting up the rate template, you're always referring to your lowest price room, the SQQ in this example. So my DQQ room type is going to be $50 more than the SQQ. And my DK is going to be $60 more than the SQQ. And let's have our EKS at $100 more than the SQQ. Now, we've been doing this for single occupancy in this first column here, but we can also set up these incremental changes based off of double, triple, or quad occupancy as well. So if your rates are based off of double occupancy, meaning that the price of the room is the same regardless if it's 1 or 2 people in the room, you can copy the same increments here. So I might do that for this property where double and single occupancy are treated as the same. But when it comes to triple occupancy, when there's a third person in the room, this property charges an extra $10 for that third person. So if there's a third person in the SQQ room type, that's going to be $10 more. If there's a third person in the SK room type, it's going to be $10 more for the triple occupancy, another $10 for the increased value of the room, because you're going up a room type and you are also increasing the occupancy. So it's going to be 10 plus 10, which is 20. I'll do the same for the DQQ, which is going to bump it up to 60. The DK is 70, and the EKS is going to be 110. So following that same logic, I can do the same for the quad occupancy. So if there's 4 people in a room in the SQQ room type, it's going to be an extra $20. Let's do $30, 70, 80, and 120. Now, when it comes to the extra column, you can see here that I'm starting to build a bit of a pattern. It's $10 extra for each additional person over and above double occupancy. That's the policy that this property has. So I can simply put in $10 for this extra column. And that tells RoomKey that anytime someone is booking a room for 5 or more people, it's automatically going to add in this extra $10. So now that I've set up this rate template, I want to save this information. So I'm going to select Update Rate Template. That's going to save those rate increments. So the next time that I come in here to maybe update or load my rates for 2023, I won't have to make changes, or I won't have to add in those increments. And in fact, I'm just going to go ahead and lock the grid as well. And that ensures that I don't accidentally click or type over these increments. So now that we have our rate template set up, I'm now going to load rate pricing, and that brings me back to my base rate row at the top here. So now when I load my base rate price, which is the price of the SQQ room type, my lowest room type category, I'm going to simply type in $100 to the base rate row at the top, and you'll see how the pricing is now flowing down and adding in those increments for each room type. And it's also adding in the increments for the increased occupancy. So for triple occupancy, that bumps it up to 110, and quad occupancy, it's bumping it up to 120. So even if some of these room types, like for example, this SK room type can only accommodate a maximum of 3 people, I do still have a rate that is updating here. But in reality, if someone is going through to book the SK room type, they can only put a maximum of 3 people in that room type. So I've added in my pricing to my base rate row at the top, and I can now visually confirm that these prices are correct for the different room types and occupancies. The next thing I need to do is select my date from and date to, so the date range that I want to apply these prices. So that's available down below the rate grid. The date from in the left-hand side, this is going to allow me to load rates starting from today, or I could choose a date in the future. I'm going to apply these prices starting today through to May 15th. So I'll select May 15th as my date to. There we go. And then below the date from and date to, or that date range selector, you'll notice that there's a series of check boxes representing the days of the week, Sunday through to Saturday. And this is because we can actually apply these rate plans. If you have rates that fluctuate, maybe you have a weekday rate and then you increase your rates on the weekends for Friday and Saturday, you can choose to apply these prices based off of the days of the week within this date range. So I'm going to do that. Let's say that this is my weekday price, which is applicable Sunday through Thursday. I don't want to load this rate for Friday and Saturday. So I remove Friday and Saturday checkboxes here, and I can go ahead and select update rate amounts. Now, if you forget to select update rate amounts, you will not be able to select save. This save button will remain grayed out until you select update rate amounts, and that now becomes available to select. So I'll select save, and Roomkey now confirms that it's going to update those rate amounts, the exact amounts that we see here in the rate grid. So I click OK, and I can double check my work in the screen down below. But while I'm here, I do want to load the price for the weekend at the same time. So my price on the weekend goes up to $120. There we go. All I need to do is add that 120 to my base rate pro at the top. My date from and date to remain the same, but this time I'm going to remove Sunday through Thursday checkboxes and only load this price for the Fridays and Saturdays within this date range. Again, I select update rate amounts and save. And now when I click OK, that's now going to just add those prices to the Friday and Saturday. Let's check our work. I'm going to click and drag this dividing line back up. So the rate grid, let me just make sure I'm taking a look at my SQQ room type for my Hotel Direct distribution channel. And that now updates on the rate calendar down below. So I can see the price, $100, is loaded for Sunday through Thursday within that date range from now until May 15th. And I can also see that the price does go up for Fridays and Saturdays. So that price goes up by $100 there. Or sorry, by $20 there. Now, this rate calendar is going to display the double occupancy rate by default. If you'd like to see the triple occupancy or more information about this rate, you can double click on a date, and that will expand to now show you the rate breakdown for this one specific day. So that's April 22nd, see double, triple, quad occupancy pricing. You would also be able to see if there's any restrictions like minimum or maximum length of stay or number to sell. So I can close that. That is just a pop-up. That's for information purposes only. If I actually wanted to change the price on the 22nd, I would go back up to my rate grid and follow the same process that we did there. So for this one, we can also customize how you're applying your rate pricing per distribution channel. So for example, if I wanted to offer maybe a lower weekday price, if someone contacts the property directly to book, I can maybe offer, let's say, a $10 discount if they contact the Hotel Direct to book any of my standard or deluxe room types. I put $90 here. That's going to be my discounted price, so it's $10 less than the weekday price. And if I only want to apply this lower rate for my standard and double deluxe rooms, but not my executive suite, I can remove the check mark from this rate grid, and that will not apply this change to that room type. So let me unlock the grid, and I'm just going to remove the EKS checkbox, unlock the grid again. Now I'm going to keep the same date range until the 15th, but this is my weekday price, so Sunday through Thursday. And before I select update rate amounts, I'm going to come down a little bit further and you'll see a series of checkboxes for your distribution channels. So Hotel Direct, GDS, and Hotel Website. I only want to apply this change to my Hotel Direct. So I don't want this lower price to be available to book through the GDS or the website. This is only available if a guest contacts the Hotel Direct. Now, when I select update rate amounts and save, that will still update those rate amounts. And when I double check my work down below, let me just pull that back up here, I'm going to look at the EKS, the direct hotel channel, and you'll see that that remains at $200. I go to my SQQ for the Hotel Direct channel and see that the price is no longer $100, it actually drops down to $90. If I take a look at my hotel website, or let's take a look at the GDS distribution channel for the same room type, SQQ, you can see that the price is higher. So I'm distributing this higher price to the GDS and hotel website, but I'm giving preference or $10 off to any guests that contact the hotel directly to book. So lots of customization that you can do there with your pricing and your distribution channels, as well as pricing for specific room type. Now let me just pull this back down once again. And instead of talking about the pricing, I wanted to just also note that you can also do the same application, similar application using restrictions. So we have 4 types of restrictions that you can apply to a rate based off of a date range. That includes close to arrival. For example, if I wanted to place a close to arrival restriction on Friday, this coming Friday, the 22nd, it means that a guest could arrive on Thursday or Wednesday and stay through Friday, checking out on Saturday, but they would not be able to arrive on Friday and check out Saturday. A close restriction means that the rate is closed out completely for the day. The guest would not be able to stay through, meaning that if I close the rate on Friday, even if a guest arrives on Thursday, they will not be able to stay through Friday. They would need to check out on Friday. LOS is our length of stay restriction. So if I wanted to put a minimum length of stay or maximum length of stay, I can set that up here. I'm actually going to put a minimum length of stay for my Fridays and Saturdays in the state range. So I'll put minimum 2-night stay. Instead of selecting update rate amounts, I don't want to change the price. I only want to apply this length of stay restriction. So I'm going to go directly to save, and that will update my LOS or length of stay restriction. Now, when a restriction is applied, that will appear on the rate calendar down below. I'm just going to double click on this coming Friday here. It shows me my pricing breakdown, but it also tells me that I've got a minimum length of stay of 2 nights. So if a guest wants to arrive on Friday, they must stay Friday and Saturday, 2 nights in order to book this daily rate. Now, for each of these restrictions, you can also remove the restriction. So you could select LOS, and instead of just to bring the restriction or remove the restriction, I'll just select clear LOS, select save, and again, it's going to update that length of stay restriction, but this time it actually removes that restriction. So on the calendar here, the little 2/0 has now disappeared. Number to sell is another type of restriction that our service does offer. Number to sell would actually limit the number of bookings that would come through. And it is important to note that number to sell is not applicable to GDS rate. So if you wanted to restrict how many bookings you receive through GDS or OTA, you would need to do that on their platform. Now that we've set up the daily rate information, we've applied some rate prices and seen how that restriction sets up, I'm going to return to the main page using the return to main page button there.